And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Monday mornings, flying weather showing lots of IFR here into the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta, down to Togiak Bay and to the just north of the Alaska Peninsula there, back up across the Pribilofs. And central western Aleutians, all IFR. IFR from the Bering Strait up along the Arctic coast there to the central Arctic coast, marginal VFR on the east side. And a lot of marginal VFR here over the southern half of the interior. And south of the Alaska Range across the Copper River Basin, band of IFR, eastern North Gulf Coast on into the Panhandle. For the afternoon, North Gulf Coast is marginal VFR now, so some improving conditions there into the Copper River Basin, as well as south central Alaska, marginal for Kodiak Island, band of IFR here over the Panhandle. In VFR, eastern third of the state, all the way up to the Arctic coast there, marginal VFR for the western two-thirds. And still a band of IFR out here over the northern Bering Sea into the Pribilof Islands, followed by a band of VFR, and then some more IFR up into the central Aleutians. And Tuesday morning, big increase in the IFR here over the Bering Sea. All of the Aleutians, Alaska Peninsula, Kodiak Island, right into the southwest interior in the southern Kuskokwim Valley. Western Alaska Range, western Cook Inlet, IFR spreading in. VFR here up to the north. IFR, most of the Arctic coast now, and portions of the North Slope, with this IFR zone across the Gulf of Alaska covering all of the southeast coast. And let's see what happens for the afternoon time. Big improvement, as you can see, going from IFR to VFR here over a good portion of the map, with IFR holding along the coast range here and into the Panhandle, but improving over the central southeast coast. Sitka becoming VFR, for example. Good VFR from the North Slope all the way down into Bristol Bay and Kodiak Island. St. Lawrence Island becoming VFR, marginal for Nunivak Island, Pribilof's IFR, as well as the Aleutians. And for passes for the Anaktuvik-Adigan, both marginal VFR for the day Monday. Lake Clark and Merrill, improving conditions throughout the daytime hours, starting off IFR with better conditions through the afternoon. Same trend for rainy as well. And for windy, VFR. Isabel, VFR. Mintesta, VFR. And Tanita, marginal VFR becoming VFR. And Portage showing improvement as well. IFR to marginal VFR. Chilkoot and White, IFR the entire day. Freezing levels 4,000 feet here with a cold upper level low over the southwest interior that came in off the Bering Sea there after dropping down from the north, 4,000 to 6,000 feet here, covering a good portion of the interior. And then 10,000 feet here right across just east of Yakutat, otherwise about 10,000 to 11,000 feet across the Panhandle, up to 12,000 feet or 10,000 to 12,000 feet central and western Aleutians. And for icing, areas of isolated moderate icing here, western Arctic coast and over the western Brooks Range. Southward expanding here, chance of some icing across much of south central Alaska into the Copper River Basin back out to the southwest coast. And could see some considerable moderate icing there for the southern Panhandle. And jet stream, cold upper trough here at 33,000 feet right through the central interior. Behind that, north to northwest winds 70 knots. In advance of that, south winds at 70 knots. 90 knots up there just east of the border, blowing across Old Crow. And out to the west, the main Pacific jet here, 110 knots, just grazing the Aleutian chain. And for 9,000 feet, strongest winds of this elevation farther south, so south of the Aleutians, pretty light there for the Bering Sea, northwest 40 knots here over the east and southeast bearings, swinging across the Alaska Peninsula and turning westerly. South winds 30 to 35 knots over the central interior areas, and south winds up to 40 knots for the southeast coast. And at 3,000 feet, a narrower band of 40-knot winds here, with the strongest max right about the central southeast coast there, but much lighter at this elevation over interior Alaska. And not much out west, maybe 25 knots here coming across the eastern Aleutians. That's about it. So turbulence-wise, looking pretty good for the Bering Sea, Aleutians, all of interior Alaska. But the southeast coast, considerable moderate turbulence here over the central and southern inside waters.